Welcome. This is a new series that I thought would be kind of cool. And it's really just a way to get my thoughts out there, to be honest. Just about different fucking topics, right? This is not no fucking podcast. This is really just a way for me to, just yap. Really. Like really just yap. But it's like topics that I think about from time to time. So this is the first episode of Just Yapping. What is up, everybody? I am RenaMarq, and your modern Renaissance creator of all types. And I want to talk about something, and I do got a script too, because I do kind of want to keep it somewhat concise, or I will be like going off on tangent. It's a very base outline script, but still just about like the topic at hand. But today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind lately, especially as somebody who loves indie horror games. Y'all know I love indie horror games. Shout out to Chill and Thrill series. The indie scene is where some of the most unique and like spine-chilling experiences of all time come from. But there is a trend I've noticed that I think is worth discussing. Have you noticed that many indie horror games revolve around a woman or a child being stalked, abused, or harassed? It seems like a lot of developers are using these themes to create horror through trauma. And while it's important to recognize like these stories can still spread awareness of issues like that, and some of these stories can possibly share real victims' experiences, like for instance, Fears of Fathom. There's a point where it starts to feel too much, not too much in like, it feels insensitive. There you go. It feels insensitive. Now, if it's something like, I think it's Rael. I think Rael L does Fears to Fathom. Oh, I hope I'm not getting that wrong. But I think Rael L does Fears to Fathom, where like people submit their stories and he turns them into games. Beautiful idea. Wonderful. And I feel like that's a I don't want to say a right way to do it, but it feels better because like that story comes from the person who has experienced it, lived it, and wants to find a way to tell their story, spread that awareness, and like share their experience in a creative medium, which is fire. But let's think about it, right? We have games where you play as a woman, stalked by an ex, or a child trying to escape from some creepy motherfucker. And these scenarios can be terrifying for sure. Like as indie horror games go, I mean, they are, as far as like the gameplay and mechanics and like jump scares and chase sequences and shit like that, yeah, they hit it out the park 100%. But these stories can also hit very close to home for a lot of people. Real victims have lived through these horrors, and seeing it repeatedly used as like a plot device in games can be troubling. It can be. Now, I'm not saying that these stories shouldn't be told at all. I'm not saying that the developers and the writers and creators of these indie horror games shouldn't make them at all. I'm thinking awareness is super crucial, and horror has always explored the darkest parts of human existence. But when it becomes a go-to trope, it starts to feel like developers are exploiting these traumatic experiences for scares, and I think that could be problematic. Another reason I think it's becoming too much of an issue too is the question of like variety's sake, right? Indie horror, the reason why I love indie horror is because it has the potential to explore so many different types of fear that I feel we don't get in AA games or even AAA horror games. Like AAA horror games, you got your Silent Hills, you got your Resident Evils, you know what I'm saying? Last of Us, you know what I'm saying? There ain't much nowadays. Like when you really fucking think about it, there's not many AAA horror games happening nowadays. I don't fucking know why, but yeah. AA games are getting a lot better. Like we just had like Still Wakes the Deep. That's out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But with indie horror games have been running, indie games and the indie market has been running the horror game industry for fucking years. We gotta keep it a bean. We gotta keep it a stack and a buck. You know what I'm saying? And it's been meant. It's been fucking beautiful. It's been so meant that we are seeing people blow up like Five Nights at Freddy's, which will, yeah, that might have been the start of this fucking pattern, because that, you want to talk about fucking child trauma, okay? I'm not going to get into the story because I don't know it all that well like that. I know of it, but shout out to, of course, the great storyteller of Five Nights at Freddy's, and that's Game Theory. Shout out Matt Pat. We miss you. We love you, buddy. But I think indie horror has the potential to explore so many different types of fear, right? Psychological horror, supernatural elements, existential dread, blah, 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 blah. You know, the possibilities literally keep going and going and going and going and going. They're fucking endless. But when we keep seeing the same themes over and over, it feels repetitive and limits the scope of what indie horror can be, what indie horror was, what indie horror is, and why so many people fell in love with indie horror. I'm so tired of like waking up in a basement and I'm like a child trying to escape, or a woman and I hear a knock on the door, you know, boom, boom, boom. Go to the door. Objective. You know what I'm saying? Go to the door. Nobody there. You know what I'm saying? I hear my closet close. You know what I'm saying? What was that? Go back. Man in the house. Objective. Escape. Like, come on, man. Damn. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think horror games should challenge us, make us think, push the genre's boundaries, but they shouldn't continuously do that at the expense of real people's trauma. I think it's a delicate balance, and I think the indie scene can just do better, be a lot better. And I get it to a point like this. What can we do about it, right? As content creators and as players of the indie horror game genre, like, we can support the games that explore new and innovative horror themes. I don't know if y'all been watching like the latest Chill and Thrills, but I've been trying to find games outside of those patterns, those trends, those stories, in order to first and foremost not bog the channel down and bog the indie horror games that I'm playing down with just non-stop of the same story, the same type, but also in recognizing that it's an issue, trying to stay away from that as much. Now, of course, there's going to be games where I'm not perfect, and there's going to be games where it is that story. And like I said, I think in moderation, it's still a good story for an indie horror game. I just think it's happening too fucking much, where it's making me wonder, like, yo, are the devs okay? Like, you niggas good? You know what I'm saying? Because, like, if I was to give you five stories on a paper, right, that I wrote, that I thought of, and you was to read five of those, and four of those was about some creep ass nigga harassing, stalking a child, wanting to harass or harm that child, or wanting to harass or harm that woman, you might call the fucking cops. You might be like, yo, why are you thinking about this so much? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is your mindset on a child being stalked or harassed, or a woman being stalked or harassed? Like, that ain't weird. That ain't suspicious. You know what I'm saying? I think we can give feedback to developers and let them know when a trope feels overused or insensitive. And for the devs out there, get fucking creative. I'm not a dev, so it's kind of like, who the fuck am I to tell you? I just play the games. But I am a writer. You know what I'm saying? I write stories. I write films. I write scripts. And if I wrote 7 stories or 7 scripts about harming kids or harming women, like, I might get side-eyed. I should get side-eyed. You know what I'm saying? I think there's so many ways to scare us, story-wise, gameplay-wise, without relying on the same old trope. But what do y'all think? Like, put it in the comments. Like, have you noticed this trend too? Are there any games you played recently that kind of broke the mold, offered something different? I would really like to hear your opinions on this topic. Have y'all been any fans of indie horror? Have y'all been seeing this trend and pattern a lot when y'all go to play games? Or when y'all go to watch, YouTube indie horror content? I would love to hear your opinions, and hey, let's work together. Give me some game recommendations I can use for Chill and Thrill that's not surrounding those stories. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I know I'm not saying that I'm never going to play those type of stories or anything like that. Call me a hypocrite if you want. But I'm trying to do better by lessening the amount of those type of stories I do play, and trying to take more time in searching for good indie horror games that go away from that story and go away from that. I'm doing my part as much as I can as well. So, don't judge me if you see a game on a Chill and Thrill, or you see a video on Chill and Thrill and it is that type of story. But judge me if you see the next 4 of them back to back to back to back to back with those type of stories, because then you'd be like, my G, what did you just talked about, But yeah, all right. I know it's a complex issue, but I think it's one worth bringing up. It's one worth discussing. Indie horror is one of my favorite horrors of all genres of all time. I think it has so much potential, and I'm excited to see where it evolves, where it goes from here. I hope it starts stepping away from that. I think our voices as players matter. I think our voices as content creators matter, as creators matter. I think dev stories matter. I think people who went through these experiences matter. And together we can really shape a more thoughtful and innovative gaming landscape. But then again, you know, I hope that y'all are listening to what I'm saying, but to some of y'all, I might just be yapping. I'm RenaMarq. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.